I am Ethan, 68 years old, and family has always been my priority. When I bought that luxury vacation home by the beach, I imagined creating beautiful memories with my son William and his family. Never did I expect to overhear my daughter-in-law Amanda saying, "He can sleep on the couch," while distributing rooms in the house I secretly owned. The shock and pain I felt that day changed everything, but the look on their faces when I revealed the truth was truly priceless. If you are watching this right now, let me know where you are from in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe as I take you through a story of betrayal, respect, and standing up for yourself even with family. I built my life from the ground up. After graduating from business school in the late 70s, I started a small import-export company that grew beyond my wildest expectations. By my early 40s, I had established myself as a successful businessman with investments spanning real estate, technology, and retail. Life seemed perfect with my loving wife Sarah and our son William, but fate had other plans. Sarah was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer when William was just 12 years old. Despite fighting bravely for 2 years, we lost her when William was 14. Her passing left a gaping hole in our lives that nothing could fill. William and I only had each other, and that created a bond between us that I thought would be unbreakable. Being a single father wasn't easy, especially while running a demanding business. I made countless sacrifices to be present for William. I adjusted my work schedule to attend his basketball games, helped with homework, and tried my best to be both mother and father to him. We had our rough patches, especially during his teenage years when he struggled with grief, but we always found our way back to each other. William grew into a fine young man. He excelled academically, earned a scholarship to a prestigious university, and later secured a good job at a marketing firm. I couldn't have been prouder. When he turned 30, he met Amanda at a company event. They dated for about a year before William announced their engagement. Amanda initially struck me as sweet, polite, and caring. During our first few meetings, she asked thoughtful questions about my business and showed interest in family photos. She even helped prepare dinner when visiting my home and brought thoughtful gifts. I was thrilled that William had found someone who seemed to appreciate family values. The wedding was beautiful, if a bit extravagant for my taste. Amanda's parents, Harold and Patricia, seemed pleasant enough, though I noticed they were quite particular about how things should be done. The ceremony reflected more of their preferences than William or Amanda's, but I kept my observations to myself. After all, it was their day, and I wanted William to be happy. Things began to change subtly after their honeymoon. Amanda's sweet demeanor gradually gave way to a more assertive and sometimes condescending attitude, especially toward me. The first time I noticed it was during a Sunday dinner at my house about 3 months after their wedding. I had prepared my special pot roast, a recipe Sarah had taught me and that William had always loved. "This meat is a bit tough, and there is too much salt," Amanda commented, barely touching her food. "My mother makes it differently. She uses a special Dutch technique that keeps the meat tender." William looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I smiled and offered to order pizza instead, but the moment stuck with me. It seemed small, but it was the beginning of a pattern. As months turned into years, the incidents increased in frequency and intensity. Amanda would correct my grammar in conversations, interrupt me when I was sharing stories about William's childhood, and make subtle jabs about my outdated opinions. She would rearrange furniture in my home without asking and criticize my clothing choices when we went out to restaurants. What troubled me most was how William's behavior toward me began to change under her influence. My once affectionate son became distant. Our weekly lunches became monthly, then sporadic. When we did meet, he seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone for messages from Amanda. He started agreeing with her criticisms, sometimes adding his own. The situation worsened after their children were born. Noah arrived 4 years ago, followed by Lily 2 years later. I was overjoyed to become a grandfather and eagerly looked forward to building relationships with my grandchildren. But Amanda established strict rules about my visits and interaction with the kids. "Dad has his own way of raising children," William would say, echoing Amanda's words. "We need to respect their parenting style." This translated to limited visits, always supervised. with Amanda frequently correcting how I held the babies or the games I played with them. When I bought gifts, they were often returned or put away for special occasions that never seemed to come. Despite all this, I maintained patience. These were my only grandchildren, and William was my only son. I told myself that keeping peace was more important than standing up to disrespect. I continued to support them financially when needed, helping with the down payment on their house and contributing to the children's education funds. I thought my generosity might improve our relationship, but it seemed to have the opposite effect. Amanda came from a family that valued status and appearances. Her father, Harold, was a bank manager, and her mother, Patricia, taught piano to children from affluent families. They lived comfortably but were always striving for more, always comparing their achievements to others. This mindset seemed to have transferred to Amanda, who constantly spoke about upgrading their house, car, and vacations to match those of her friends and colleagues. The most telling incident before the vacation house situation happened during last Christmas. I had been invited to their home for dinner, along with Amanda's parents. Throughout the evening, Harold and Patricia were given the comfortable seats by the fireplace, served first at dinner, and consulted on every decision from which music to play to when to open gifts. I was seated at the far end of the table, served last, and when I tried to share a Christmas tradition from William's childhood, Amanda quickly changed the subject. "Let us not bore everyone with old stories," she said with a dismissive wave. "Dad, would you like to tell us about your recent trip to Vienna?" The contrast in how our two families were treated could not have been more obvious. Yet I swallowed my pride, smiled, and made pleasant conversation. For William's sake, for my grandchildren's sake. But something was building inside me, a realization that my kindness was being mistaken for weakness and my generosity taken for granted. The idea for the vacation home came to me last winter. William had mentioned how Amanda was constantly comparing their lifestyle to her friend Jessica, whose family owned a beach house in the Hamptons. According to William, Amanda would scroll through Jessica's social media posts, showing luxurious weekends by the ocean, and return to the conversation deflated and irritable. "She says we work just as hard as Jessica and her husband, but they get to escape to their beach house while we are stuck in the same routine," William had explained during one of our rare father-son lunches. "I keep telling her we will get there eventually, but she feels like we are falling behind." I remembered how William's eyes had looked tired, the weight of trying to meet his wife's expectations evident in the new lines on his face. He was only 37, but stress was aging him prematurely. In that moment, I decided I wanted to do something special for him, something that might alleviate some of the pressure he was under and perhaps bring a smile back to his face. I had been considering downsizing my investment portfolio for retirement anyway, and redirecting some assets toward a vacation property seemed like a sound decision. The real estate market in coastal areas had been steadily appreciating, and I had always believed in the value of property investments. But beyond the financial aspects, I saw it as an opportunity to create a space for family bonding, a place where William could relax and where my grandchildren could build childhood memories. Over the next 3 months, I worked secretly with a real estate agent named Thomas, who specialized in luxury beachfront properties. We looked at numerous options along the East Coast, from Maine to Florida. I wanted something special, a place that would take their breath away but also feel like home. Finally, we found it. A stunning 4-bedroom house in a small, exclusive community in North Carolina's Outer Banks. The property sat on an elevated lot with panoramic ocean views from almost every room. The architecture was a beautiful blend of traditional coastal style with modern amenities, featuring large windows, wraparound porches, and an open floor plan. The master bedroom suite occupied the entire 3rd floor, with a private balcony overlooking the Atlantic. On the 2nd floor were 3 spacious bedrooms, each with their own bathroom. The main floor housed an expansive living area with a gourmet kitchen, dining space for 12, and a cozy den with a fireplace. Outside, a heated infinity pool seemed to merge with the ocean horizon, and private steps led directly to the beach below. The price was steep, $1.8 million, representing a significant portion of my liquid assets. But when I stood on that deck, listening to the waves and imagining Noah and Lily building sandcastles while William and I grilled seafood for dinner. I knew it was worth every penny. I signed the papers in April, closed the deal in May, and spent June having the house professionally decorated and stocked with everything a family might need for comfortable vacations. I decided to keep my ownership a secret for several reasons. First, I wanted to surprise William on his upcoming birthday in July. Second, I was curious to see how Amanda would react to what she believed was borrowed luxury rather than something she could claim as partially hers through marriage. And third, I had begun to develop a sense of caution about how my generosity was received and utilized by William and Amanda. The backstory I created was simple enough. I told William that a business associate had offered me the use of his vacation home for 2 weeks as thanks for some consulting work I had done. I mentioned that the owner was very particular about the property but had agreed to let me bring family along. William was delighted and immediately called Amanda to share the news. As the vacation approached, I spent time ensuring everything would be perfect. I arranged for the refrigerator to be stocked with gourmet foods and beverages. I made sure there were beach toys for the children, board games for rainy days, and all the latest entertainment options. I even placed framed family photos throughout the house, including several of Sarah, to give the place a personal touch, despite the fabricated backstory. In my mind, I envisioned evenings on the deck watching sunsets with William, reminiscing about old times while the children played. I imagined morning walks on the beach with Noah and Lily, collecting shells and teaching them about the ocean. I pictured Amanda finally relaxing, perhaps showing me the warmth I had glimpsed when she and William first dated. Most importantly, I saw this as an opportunity to bridge the growing gap between myself and William. Away from the daily pressures of work and regular routines, perhaps we could reconnect in a meaningful way. I believed that in that beautiful setting, surrounded by nature's grandeur, pettiness and status concerns might fade away. The plan was for us all to arrive on a Saturday in mid-July. I had arranged for a professional cleaning service to come through on Friday and had the caretaker turn on the air conditioning and outdoor lights for our evening arrival. Everything was set for what I hoped would be a turning point in our family dynamics. Little did I know how right I was about it being a turning point, though not in the way I had imagined. As the day approached, my excitement grew. I packed carefully, including special gifts for Noah and Lily that I planned to give them during our stay. I also brought along photo albums from William's childhood, hoping to share stories and memories with him, and perhaps even Amanda. In one album were pictures of Sarah, beautiful and vibrant before her illness, holding baby William. I thought perhaps seeing these might remind Amanda of the importance of family bonds and the legacy that connected us all. The day before our departure, I called William to confirm our arrangements. It was then that he casually mentioned that Amanda had invited her parents to join us. "It just made sense, Dad," he explained. "They were planning to visit us next month anyway, and when Amanda told them about this amazing beach house, they rearranged their schedule. I hope that is okay." I felt a twinge of disappointment but assured him it was fine. After all, there were 4 bedrooms, and I told myself that perhaps spending time with Harold and Patricia might give me more insight into Amanda's behavior and values. Plus, they could help watch the children, giving William and me more time together. With adjusted expectations but still hopeful heart, I finished my preparations for what I still believed would be a wonderful family vacation. If only I had known what was waiting for me at the beautiful house by the sea. We arranged to meet at a restaurant about 15 minutes from the beach house for an early dinner before heading to the property. I arrived first and secured a table large enough for 7, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness about the 2 weeks ahead. William and his family arrived next. Noah ran to me with open arms, shouting, "Grandpa!" His enthusiasm warmed my heart as I lifted him for a hug. Lily, still a bit shy at 2, hid behind William's leg but offered a small wave. Amanda was dressed impeccably as always, her designer sunglasses pushed up into her perfectly highlighted hair. She gave me a brief, formal hug, the kind reserved for distant relatives at funerals. "The traffic was awful," she complained as she sat down. "I told William we should have left earlier, but he insisted we would be fine." William gave me an apologetic smile as he helped Lily into her booster seat. Good to see you, Dad. You look well. Before I could respond, Harold and Patricia swept into the restaurant. Harold was a tall, distinguished-looking man with silver hair and the confident stride of someone accustomed to respect. Patricia, petite and meticulously groomed, carried herself with practiced elegance. They greeted their daughter and grandchildren warmly before acknowledging me with polite nods. "Ethan, good to see you," Harold said, extending his hand for a firm handshake. "Amanda tells us your friend has quite the property. Very generous of him to loan it out." "Yes, very generous," Patricia echoed, her eyes surveying the restaurant with a slight frown, clearly finding it lacking. "Though I cannot imagine owning such a valuable asset and letting others use it." "Is he abroad?" "He travels frequently for business," I replied, sticking to my story. "The house sits empty much of the year." Dinner proceeded with conversation dominated by Amanda and her parents. They discussed people I didn't know, events I hadn't attended, and frequently referenced their own family traditions and memories, effectively excluding me from much of the interaction. William occasionally tried to bring me into the conversation, but these efforts were quickly redirected. After dinner, we formed a small convoy to the beach house, with me leading the way. As we approached the private community gate, I entered the access code and felt a surge of pride as we drove up the winding, landscaped driveway to the house. Even in the fading evening light, the property was impressive, with architectural lighting highlighting its best features. I pulled into the spacious driveway and watched through my rearview mirror as the others parked behind me. Their reactions did not disappoint. William's jaw literally dropped as he stepped out of his car and took in the size and elegance of the house. Noah and Lily began running excitedly around the circular driveway, their energy infectious. Even Harold and Patricia looked impressed, exchanging glances that suggested they hadn't expected something quite this luxurious. Amanda stood still for a moment, surveying the property with wide eyes before quickly composing herself. "Well," she said, her voice carefully modulated to sound unimpressed, "it looks adequate for our needs." I used the keypad to open the front door and gestured for everyone to enter. The foyer opened into the great room, with its 20-foot ceilings and wall of windows facing the ocean. The last rays of sunset cast a golden glow across the space, illuminating the tasteful coastal decor and comfortable yet elegant furnishings. "This is amazing," William exclaimed, walking straight to the windows. "Look at that view, kids." Noah and Lily pressed their faces against the glass, pointing excitedly at the infinity pool that seemed to spill into the ocean beyond. Harold immediately began examining the craftsmanship of the custom-built fireplace, while Patricia ran her fingers along the marble countertops in the kitchen. "The kitchen appliances are top of the line," she noted with approval. "European, of course." Amanda said nothing but began walking through the house, opening doors, inspecting rooms, and taking photos with her phone. I could see her mentally cataloging every feature, likely for comparison with her friend Jessica's place or to share on social media. I gave them a brief tour, showing them the outdoor spaces, the game room in the basement, and finally, the bedrooms. The master suite on the 3rd floor elicited gasps from everyone, with its panoramic views, enormous bathroom with both shower and soaking tub, and private deck. "Your friend has excellent taste," Harold commented, opening the walk-in closet that was larger than some apartments I had lived in as a young man. After the tour, we retrieved our luggage from the cars. It was nearly 9 in the evening, and the children were showing signs of fatigue after the long drive. I expected we would discuss sleeping arrangements, and I had assumed William and Amanda would take one of the 2nd-floor bedrooms, the children another, Harold and Patricia the 3rd, and I would take the master suite since I was the one who had secured the house. I was carrying my suitcase up the stairs when I overheard Amanda speaking to the others in the great room. Curious, I paused on the landing, out of sight but able to hear clearly. "So, for the sleeping arrangements," Amanda was saying in her efficient, organizing tone, "I think my parents should take the master suite on the 3rd floor. They will appreciate the privacy and the view, and Dad has trouble with his back, so the luxury mattress will be best for him." I heard murmurs of agreement, though whether from William or her parents, I couldn't tell. "William and I will take the blue bedroom on the 2nd floor, and the kids can have the room with the bunk beds," she continued. That leaves the green bedroom for... Oh, wait. There was a pause, and I could almost visualize her counting rooms in her head. Actually, there are only 4 bedrooms total, she said, her tone suggesting this was a problem that had just occurred to her, though I had clearly shown them all the rooms. My mom gets the master bedroom, my dad gets the second one, and he can sleep on the couch. The he in question was unmistakably me. There was another pause, during which I hoped, that William would object, that he would remind everyone that I was the reason they were all enjoying this luxury vacation home. That basic respect would dictate I should have a proper place to sleep. Instead, I heard William's hesitant voice say, "Are you sure, Amanda? Dad is 68. The couch might be uncomfortable for him." "The sofa is a designer piece from Italy," Amanda replied dismissively. "Besides, your father is always talking about how he can still do 50 push-ups every morning, so I am sure he will be fine for a couple of weeks. My parents need proper beds at their age. Harold and Patricia were 64 and 62 respectively, younger than me. We could switch halfway through the trip," William suggested weakly. "That would be too disruptive," Amanda countered. "Everyone would have to repack and move their things." "No, this arrangement makes the most sense." I stood frozen on the stairs, my suitcase suddenly feeling much heavier in my hand. The casual dismissal, the complete lack of consideration, and most painfully, my son's feeble attempt at protest followed by quick acquiescence, hit me like physical blows. In my own house, the house I had purchased and furnished, dreaming of family togetherness and creating memories, the house that represented nearly $2 million of my hard-earned money, I was relegated to the couch without so much as a proper discussion. I took a deep breath, composed my face into a neutral expression, and continued down the stairs as if I had heard nothing. As I entered the great room, the conversation immediately stopped, with guilty looks from William and satisfied smiles from Amanda and her parents. "Ethan, we were just discussing sleeping arrangements," Harold said smoothly. "Due to my back issues, Amanda suggested Patricia and I take the master suite. I hope you do not mind. And the kids will be in the bunk bedroom," Amanda added quickly. "William and I will take the blue room." She paused, watching my face carefully before adding, "Which leaves you with the sofa, I am afraid. There simply are not enough bedrooms, but it is a very expensive sofa, I can tell." "Italian leather?" "Yes," I replied quietly, setting down my suitcase. Italian leather. That night, as everyone else settled into their comfortable beds in their private rooms, I made up the sofa with the spare linens from the hall closet. The Italian leather sofa, while indeed expensive and aesthetically pleasing, was not designed for sleeping. It was too short for my 6-foot frame, and the cushions created uncomfortable ridges beneath the sheets. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events of the day and many incidents from the past 5 years. The pattern was undeniable. I had been gradually pushed aside, my role in the family diminished, my feelings disregarded, and William, my only child whom I had raised alone after Sarah died, had allowed it to happen. The pain was acute, a physical sensation in my chest that made it difficult to breathe at times. I thought of Sarah and how disappointed she would be to see our son behave this way. I thought of all the sacrifices I had made, the school events I had attended alone, the late nights helping with science projects, the vacations I had forgone to afford William's college tuition. But beneath the hurt, another emotion began to surface. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind that leads to shouting and regrettable words, but a cold, clarifying anger that helped me see the situation with new eyes. I had allowed this treatment by not standing up for myself, by prioritizing peace over respect, by telling myself that keeping quiet was the price of remaining in my son and grandchildren's lives. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and quietly made my way to the kitchen. I brewed a cup of coffee and took it out to the deck, listening to the rhythmic sound of waves breaking on the shore below. The night was clear, stars sprinkled across the dark sky, the moon casting a silver path across the water. In that peaceful setting, I made my decision. I would not create a scene. I would not engage in emotional confrontations that would only reinforce Amanda's narrative that I was difficult or unreasonable. Instead, I would take control of the situation in a way that could not be manipulated or dismissed. As dawn broke, I made several phone calls. First to my lawyer, Roger, who had helped me with the purchase of the beach house. I confirmed that as the sole owner, I had full legal rights to determine who could stay in the property. Next, I called the Oceanfront Hotel, a 5-star resort about 10 minutes away, and booked their premium suite for the remainder of the 2 weeks. Finally, I called Thomas, the real estate agent, and asked him to email me the full property details and closing documents. By the time the rest of the household began to stir, I had a plan in place. I would spend one more night on the uncomfortable sofa, observing how everyone behaved when they thought they were enjoying the generosity of a nameless business associate rather than my own. I would cook them a nice breakfast the following morning, and then I would reveal the truth. Amanda was the first to come downstairs, dressed in a silk robe and looking refreshed. She barely acknowledged me as she made herself a cappuccino using the expensive machine in the kitchen. "Did you sleep well?" I asked pleasantly. "The master suite is divine," she replied, not bothering to return the question or notice the dark circles under my eyes. "The bathroom alone is bigger than our first apartment, William," she added as my son joined us, carrying Lily. "It is very nice," William agreed, avoiding my gaze. "Good morning, Dad. Coffee smells good." Soon everyone was awake and moving through the great room and kitchen. Harold and Patricia came down from the master suite, both commenting on the high-quality linens and the wonderful shower pressure. Noah ran in from the bunk bedroom, excited about the telescope he had found by the window that allowed him to see ships on the horizon. I suggested we all have breakfast on the deck to enjoy the morning view. While Amanda's parents took the children to get dressed, I prepared a spread of fresh fruit, pastries, and coffee. William helped me carry everything outside, and in that brief moment alone, he finally spoke directly to me. "Dad, about the sleeping arrangements," he began awkwardly. I held up a hand to stop him. "We will talk about it later, William." He looked relieved to avoid the conversation and busied himself arranging plates on the outdoor dining table. That small action, the visible relief at not having to defend my dignity, strengthened my resolve. Breakfast was a predictable affair. Harold dominated the conversation with stories about his recent golf tournament victories, while Patricia and Amanda discussed their plans to explore the upscale shopping areas nearby. No one asked about my night on the sofa or my plans for the day. I was essentially invisible except when Noah asked me to take him swimming later, which Amanda quickly intercepted. "Grandpa might be tired, Noah," she said with a pointed look at me. "Besides, we need to be careful about sun exposure. Your skin is sensitive like mine." "Actually," I said, smiling at Noah, "I would love to take you swimming. The pool is heated, and we can stay in the shaded part if the sun is too strong." Amanda's lips tightened, but before she could respond, William intervened. "That sounds fun, buddy. Maybe we can all go." After shopping, Amanda amended firmly. "Mother and I want to check out the boutiques in the village first." As I watched them plan the day around their preferences without consideration for mine, I felt a strange sense of calm. By tomorrow, everything would change. This would be the last day I would allow myself to be treated as an afterthought in a house that was, in fact, mine. That evening, after a day spent largely being ignored except by my grandchildren, I prepared for another uncomfortable night on the sofa. Amanda and her parents had returned from shopping with numerous bags from expensive boutiques. They had brought back lunch only for themselves, apparently forgetting that William, the children, and I might also be hungry. William had taken the kids to the beach while I worked on dinner, a task assigned to me without discussion but which I accepted graciously, knowing what was to come. As I laid out the sheets and blanket on the sofa, I caught William watching me from the hallway. There was shame in his eyes, but not enough to make him speak up. He turned away when I met his gaze, heading upstairs to the comfortable bedroom he shared with Amanda. In that moment, I felt not just disappointed but genuinely sad for the man my son had become. Where was the courageous, kind-hearted boy I had raised? The young man who had once stood up to bullies defending a smaller child on the playground. How had he allowed himself to become so diminished in his own family? These thoughts accompanied me through another restless night. But this time, the discomfort seemed less important. I was looking forward to the morning and the long overdue correction to our family dynamic that it would bring. I woke before sunrise, having slept perhaps 3 hours in total. Despite the fatigue, I felt energized by purpose. I showered in the guest bathroom downstairs, dressed in one of my better casual outfits, and began preparing an elaborate breakfast. If this was to be a memorable morning, I wanted the setting to be perfect. I made my special blueberry pancakes, a recipe that had been William's favorite since childhood. I prepared a fruit salad with all the berries Noah liked and the mango that Lily always requested. I brewed fresh coffee, squeezed orange juice, and even whipped cream by hand for the pancakes. The dining table on the deck was set with the good dishes and fresh flowers I had arranged in a vase. Harold and Patricia were the first to come downstairs, drawn by the smell of coffee and pancakes. They looked surprised to see the elaborate spread. "You have been busy," Patricia remarked, helping herself to coffee. "Though I usually prefer my eggs poached rather than scrambled. I can make you some poached eggs," I offered politely. "No, this will do," she said with a small sigh, as if making a great concession. William appeared next with the children, both still in pajamas but wide awake and excited by the sight of pancakes. Noah immediately climbed onto my lap and asked for extra blueberries, while Lily shyly requested whipped cream. "Of course," I said, serving them both generous portions. Anything for my favorite grandchildren. Amanda was the last to join us, looking slightly irritated at having been preceded by everyone else. She surveyed the breakfast spread with a critical eye before taking a small portion of fruit and a single pancake. "So much sugar so early in the day," she commented, watching the children happily devouring their whipped cream-topped pancakes. "We do not normally allow this kind of breakfast, do we, William?" William, his mouth full of pancake, merely shrugged, clearly enjoying the meal too much to support her criticism. As everyone settled into eating, I remained standing, moving around to refill coffee cups and offer seconds. I was waiting for just the right moment, when everyone was comfortable and unsuspecting. It came when Harold, finishing his third pancake, leaned back with a satisfied sigh. "I must say, Ethan, you have a talent for breakfast, and your friend has excellent taste in vacation properties. The view this morning is spectacular." "It is, isn't it?" I agreed, looking out at the ocean. "I always thought this property had one of the best views on this stretch of coastline. That is why I bought it." There was a moment of complete silence as my words registered. Harold's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. Patricia's eyes widened almost comically. William choked slightly on his orange juice. Amanda's fork clattered onto her plate. "What did you say?" Harold finally managed. I repeated calmly, "That is why I bought it. This house belongs to me. I purchased it 3 months ago." "But you said it belonged to a business associate," William stammered, his face pale. "That was not entirely accurate," I acknowledged. "I wanted to surprise you for your birthday, William, and I was curious to see how everyone would behave in a house they thought belonged to someone else." I turned to look directly at Amanda, whose face had drained of color. "Imagine my surprise when I overheard you distributing bedrooms and assigning me to the sofa in my own home." Patricia made a small gasping sound. Harold set down his coffee cup very carefully, as if afraid it might explode. "Dad, I can explain," William began, but I held up a hand to stop him. "There is no need for explanations. The situation was quite clear. Amanda felt comfortable relegating me to the couch while assigning the master bedroom to her parents in a house she believed belonged to a stranger. If she thought I owned it, I can only imagine I would have been asked to sleep in the garden shed." "That is not fair," Amanda protested, finding her voice. "We did not know. How were we supposed to know?" "You weren't," I agreed. "That is precisely the point. One should not need to know who owns a property to show basic respect and consideration to a 68-year-old family member." I walked over to the sideboard where I had placed a folder earlier that morning. Opening it, I removed several papers and laid them on the table. "These are the deed and closing documents for this house. As you can see, I am the sole owner. I paid $1.8 million for this property, which I intended as a place for our family to gather and create memories." I looked around at their shocked faces before continuing. I have reserved the presidential suite at the Oceanfront Hotel for myself for the remainder of our scheduled vacation. I will be checking in this afternoon. You are all welcome to remain here until the original end date of our stay. You are leaving? William asked, looking stunned. Yes, I confirmed. I find the sofa uncomfortable, and I prefer to sleep in a proper bed. The attempt at humor fell flat in the tense atmosphere. After this vacation, I continued, my voice firm but not unkind, I will be reevaluating who has access to this property in the future. Respect will be the price of admission. Amanda, recovering from her initial shock, attempted to regain control of the situation. Ethan, you are overreacting. It was just a misunderstanding about sleeping arrangements. There is no need to make a scene. Is it making a scene to expect common courtesy? I asked quietly. Is it an overreaction to want to be treated with basic respect by my family? I do not think so. I turned to Harold and Patricia, who had remained uncharacteristically silent. You are both younger than I am, yet Amanda insisted you needed proper beds while I could make do with a sofa. That speaks volumes about the value placed on my comfort and well-being in this family dynamic. Harold at least had the grace to look embarrassed. We assumed the arrangements were acceptable to everyone, he said weakly. Because no one bothered to ask me, I pointed out. Just as no one bothered to ask if I minded you joining a vacation that was originally planned for just my son's immediate family and myself. William stood up abruptly. Dad, please, let us talk about this privately. There is nothing more to discuss right now, I said. I have made my decision. I will pack my things and leave for the hotel after breakfast. You all should continue your vacation as planned. The refrigerator is fully stocked, and all the amenities of the house are at your disposal. The silence that followed was profound. Noah, sensitive to the tension, climbed back onto my lap and wrapped his arms around my neck. Don't go, Grandpa, he whispered. I want to build a sandcastle with you. My heart ached at his innocent request. I will still see you, buddy, I assured him. We can meet at the beach tomorrow and build the biggest sandcastle ever. I just will not be sleeping here. Lily, not fully understanding but sensing her brother's distress, began to sniffle. William picked her up, murmuring reassurances. Amanda, recovering her composure, adopted a conciliatory tone. Ethan, we appreciate your generosity with the house. Of course you should have a proper bedroom. We can rearrange things immediately. That will not be necessary, I replied. I have already made other arrangements. And to be clear, this is not about the bedroom itself. It is about what the situation revealed, about how I am regarded in this family. Patricia, ever conscious of appearances, looked horrified at the unfolding drama. Perhaps we should leave, she suggested, looking at Harold. This seems like a family matter between Ethan, William, and Amanda. You are part of this family matter, I stated plainly. Your presence and the priority given to your comfort over mine is central to the issue at hand, but you are welcome to leave if you wish. The decision is yours. Harold stood, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. I think it might be best if we do leave. Patricia, let us pack our things. Without waiting for a response, they hurried upstairs, clearly eager to escape the uncomfortable situation. With her parents retreating, Amanda's facade crumbled slightly. This is humiliating, she hissed at William. Your father is deliberately trying to embarrass us. No, Amanda, I interjected calmly. I am simply standing up for myself after years of accepting disrespect. There is a difference. William looked torn, his gaze shifting between his wife and me. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between the husband he had become and the son he had been. Dad, he said finally, his voice strained. I never meant for things to get to this point. I should have said something about the sleeping arrangements. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But this is about more than just the past 2 days. This is about a pattern that has developed over years, William. A pattern where my feelings, my place in this family, have been gradually eroded. Amanda started to protest, but William silenced her with a rare assertive gesture. He is right, Amanda. We have not been fair to my father. I have not been fair. The admission, simple as it was, felt like the first truthful moment between us in years. I nodded in acknowledgement, appreciating his honesty, even as I maintained my resolve. "I will be checking into the hotel at 4 this afternoon," I said. "I would like some time with my grandchildren before I go, if that is acceptable." William nodded. "Of course it is, Dad. They would love that." I spent the next hour with Noah and Lily on the beach, building a small sandcastle and watching them play in the shallow waves. Their innocent joy was a balm to my wounded spirit, reminding me of why family matters so much, why it is worth fighting for even when it hurts. When I returned to the house to collect my belongings, I found Harold and Patricia loading their suitcases into their car. They nodded stiffly as I passed, embarrassment preventing any meaningful exchange. Inside, Amanda was nowhere to be seen, presumably upstairs packing or perhaps simply avoiding me. William helped me carry my suitcase to my car. In the privacy of the driveway, he finally spoke from his heart. "I am sorry, Dad," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I have been a coward. I have allowed Amanda to dictate how we treat you because it was easier than standing up to her. That stops today." I looked at my son, seeing both the man he had become and the boy he had been. "I hope so, William. Not just for my sake, but for yours and the children's. A family built on respect is the only kind worth having." We embraced briefly before I got into my car and drove away, heading toward the hotel and an uncertain but necessary new chapter in our family story. The presidential suite at the oceanfront hotel was the epitome of luxury, with panoramic ocean views, a private balcony, and a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud after 2 nights on the Italian leather sofa. Yet despite the physical comfort, my first night there was emotionally turbulent. I alternated between questioning my decision and feeling empowered by finally standing up for myself. The following morning, I ordered room service and enjoyed breakfast on my balcony, watching the waves and considering my next steps. Around 10 o'clock, my phone rang. It was William. "Dad," he said, his voice tentative. "Could we meet somewhere to talk? Just you and me?" I suggested the hotel's beachfront cafe, and an hour later, William arrived. He looked tired, with shadows under his eyes suggesting he had slept as poorly as I had. "Harold and Patricia left last night," he said after ordering coffee. "They were too embarrassed to stay. Amanda is furious with them for leaving, and with me for not defending her more strongly." "And how do you feel?" I asked. William sighed deeply, ashamed, confused, angry at myself. When I replay not just the last few days but the past few years, I barely recognize the person I have become. The way I have allowed you to be treated, it is not who I am, Dad. Or at least, not who I want to be. "What changed?" I asked. "We were always close, even through your difficult teenage years. When did you start seeing me as someone whose feelings didn't matter?" William winced at my bluntness, but answered honestly. "It was gradual. Amanda has a strong personality, and her family has very clear ideas about status and hierarchy. At first, I defended you, but it caused so many arguments that I started letting things slide. Then it became easier to agree with her criticisms than to challenge them. Before I knew it, I was seeing you through her eyes." He paused, visibly struggling with his emotions. "After Mom died, you were my rock. You sacrificed everything for me, and this is how I repaid you." "You were a child when your mother died," I reminded him. "You do not owe me for doing what any parent would do. But as adults, we do owe each other respect." "I know," William acknowledged. "I want to fix this, Dad. I need to fix this. Not just our relationship, but the dynamics in my marriage. I love Amanda, but I cannot continue allowing her to dictate how we treat people, especially you." We talked for nearly 2 hours, delving into painful truths about his marriage, his struggle to maintain his identity within it, and his fears about setting boundaries with Amanda. I listened more than I spoke, recognizing that William needed to articulate these realizations aloud. "The children adore you," he said finally. "Noah was heartbroken when you left. He kept asking why Grandpa couldn't stay in his room instead. Even at 4, he understood something wasn't right. Children often see truth more clearly than adults," I observed. "They haven't learned to rationalize poor behavior yet." As our conversation wound down, William asked tentatively. Would you consider coming back to the house? I can guarantee you will have a proper bedroom, and we can start rebuilding from there. No, William, I replied gently but firmly. I think it is best if I stay here for now. I need some distance to process everything, and I suspect your household does too. But I would like to see the children. Perhaps take them to the beach tomorrow. William nodded, accepting my decision. Of course, they would love that. The following day, William brought Noah and Lily to the hotel, and we spent a wonderful morning building elaborate sandcastles and collecting shells. The children's uncomplicated love was healing, their laughter a reminder of what truly mattered. On the 4th day of our vacation, an unexpected visitor arrived at my hotel suite. Amanda stood at my door, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. May I come in? She asked, her usual commanding tone absent. I invited her in and offered her tea, which she accepted. For several minutes, she sat in silence, stirring her tea and avoiding my gaze. William and I had a long conversation last night, she finally said. Several, actually. Some were quite loud. I waited, allowing her to continue at her own pace. He made it clear that things need to change, she went on. He told me he would not continue to allow his father to be disrespected, and that if I couldn't accept that, we had bigger problems than sleeping arrangements. She looked up at me, her eyes showing genuine emotion for the first time in our relationship. I grew up in a family where status and appearances were everything. My father controlled everything, and my mother taught me that a woman needs to establish dominance in her household. I never questioned it until now. And now? I prompted when she fell silent again. Now I realize I may lose my husband if I continue on this path, she admitted. And while I am not ready to accept all the blame for our family dynamics, I do recognize that my treatment of you has been unacceptable. Her words seemed practiced but sincere enough. I nodded, acknowledging her effort without immediately absolving her. What would you like from me, Amanda? I asked directly. I would like you to accept my apology, she replied. And I would like you to give me a chance to demonstrate that I can change. Apology accepted, I said simply. As for change, that will take time to prove. I am not returning to the house for this vacation, but I am open to rebuilding our relationship moving forward. Amanda looked disappointed but nodded. I understand. William said you might say that. He also said I needed to respect your boundaries, so I will. Before leaving, she added, the house is beautiful, by the way. A generous gift that we didn't deserve. That small acknowledgement, however belated, felt like a step in the right direction. Over the following days, I established a new routine. Mornings were spent on my own, swimming in the hotel pool or walking on the beach. Afternoons often included time with Noah and Lily, sometimes with William joining us. Evenings were mine again, for reading or watching the sunset from my balcony. The distance gave me perspective and a sense of peace I had not felt in years. William and I continued our conversations, delving deeper into the patterns that had developed in his marriage and how they affected everyone around them. He shared that he and Amanda were considering counseling when they returned home, a suggestion that came from him rather than her, marking a significant shift in their dynamic. A week into our new arrangement, William invited me to dinner at a restaurant near the beach house. To my surprise, Amanda joined us, making a visible effort to be respectful and engaged. The conversation was somewhat stilted, but civil, focusing mainly on the children and neutral topics. As we waited for dessert, William cleared his throat nervously. Dad, we have been talking about the house, he began. It is incredibly generous of you to have purchased it for the family. I did not purchase it for the family in the legal sense, I clarified. I bought it for myself, with the intention of sharing it with family members who demonstrate mutual respect. Amanda flinched slightly, but maintained her composure. William nodded in understanding. That is fair, he acknowledged. We have been discussing boundaries and expectations moving forward. Amanda and I both agree that your home should reflect your wishes and that guests should honor the owner's preferences, including sleeping arrangements, Amanda added, attempting a small smile. And, for the record, the sofa is indeed very uncomfortable. I tried it yesterday and could barely manage an hour. It was a small admission, but I appreciated the effort it represented. Thank you for acknowledging that, I said. Moving forward, I would like to establish some clear guidelines for using the beach house. Primary among them is that everyone is treated with respect, regardless of who owns the property. We spent the remainder of dinner outlining these guidelines, with both William and Amanda actively participating. By the end of the evening, we had a framework that everyone could accept, based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy or ownership. As the vacation drew to a close, I maintained my distance, staying at the hotel while observing the gradual shifts in family dynamics from afar. William began standing up for himself more, not just with Amanda but with her parents, who called daily and continued to exert influence even from a distance. Amanda, to her credit, was making an effort, though old habits emerged occasionally when she was stressed or tired. The most rewarding change was in my relationship with my grandchildren. Without Amanda's constant interference, Noah and Lily spent more time with me, building the bonds I had always hoped for. William encouraged these connections, bringing them to the hotel or meeting me at public beaches and parks. On our last day, William helped me inspect the beach house after they had packed up to leave. Everything was in perfect order, treated with a care that had been absent during the first days of their stay. "Thank you, Dad," William said as we stood on the deck watching the sunset. "Not just for the house, but for having the courage to draw a line. I needed that wake-up call more than you know." I placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling the connection between us strengthening again. "Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is establish boundaries, William. I should have done it sooner." "Will you come back to visit us soon?" he asked. "The kids miss you already, and I would like to continue our conversations in person." "I will," I promised. "But things will be different moving forward. I need to know that my presence is valued and my feelings considered. That is non-negotiable." William nodded solemnly. "I understand. And I promise you, things are already changing at home. Amanda and I have our first counseling appointment scheduled for next week, and I have been more assertive about my relationship with you. It will take time, but I am committed to making it right." As they drove away the next morning, I stood on the porch of my beach house, watching until their car disappeared from view. The vacation had not gone as planned, but perhaps it had gone exactly as needed. Sometimes, painful revelations are necessary for healing to begin. 6 months passed before I returned to William and Amanda's home for dinner. In that time, much had changed. William called me weekly, sometimes just to chat, sometimes to ask advice, and occasionally to update me on their progress in counseling. Noah and Lily and I had regular video calls, during which they excitedly showed me art projects and told me about their activities. Amanda and I maintained a polite distance initially, communicating mainly through William. But gradually, she began to reach out directly, first with formal text messages about the children, then with occasional photos of their activities, and eventually with genuine conversations when I called to speak with William. When I finally visited their home, the atmosphere was noticeably different. Amanda greeted me with a warm hug instead of her former perfunctory acknowledgement. The children raced to me with unbridled enthusiasm, Noah talking rapidly about his kindergarten adventures, and Lily showing off her new ability to count to 20. "Welcome, Ethan," Amanda said, using my first name naturally rather than the formal William's father she had often employed in the past. "We are so glad you could come." The children have been counting down the days. Dinner was a relaxed affair, with conversation flowing easily among the adults while the children contributed excited interruptions. Amanda had prepared my favorite roast beef, a thoughtful gesture that did not go unnoticed. William seemed more at ease than I had seen him in years, confidently expressing opinions and occasionally disagreeing with Amanda without the tension that would have accompanied such exchanges in the past. After the children were in bed, the three of us sat in the living room with coffee. There was a moment of silence before Amanda spoke. "I want to thank you properly, Ethan," she said, meeting my gaze directly. "Your actions at the beach house were difficult to accept at the time, but they forced us to confront issues that were damaging our family. Our counselor calls it a necessary crisis." William reached over and squeezed her hand supportively. "We have been doing a lot of work, Dad, individually and as a couple. Amanda has been exploring her family patterns, and how they shaped her expectations of marriage and family. And William has been learning to express his needs and stand firm in his values, Amanda added. It has not been easy, but our relationship is stronger for it. I am glad to hear that, I said sincerely. Change is rarely comfortable, but often necessary. We would like to try another vacation at the beach house, William ventured cautiously. Perhaps this summer if you are willing. A chance to create new memories and establish healthier patterns. I considered the request thoughtfully. I think that could work. With clear expectations and boundaries from the start. Of course, Amanda agreed quickly. And I promise you will have the master bedroom. We all laughed, breaking the last of the tension. In the months that followed, our family continued to heal and evolve. Amanda's parents remained somewhat resistant to the new dynamics, occasionally attempting to reassert their influence. But Amanda had developed the strength to maintain appropriate boundaries with them as well. William and I rebuilt our father-son bond, finding our way back to the close relationship we had shared before his marriage. The beach house became a symbol of our family's transformation. I maintained ownership but welcomed them for regular visits. William insisted on contributing to maintenance costs, a gesture of respect that I appreciated. Amanda took pride in caring for the property during their stays, treating it as the privilege it was rather than an entitlement. The following summer, we did indeed return as a family. This time, I took the master bedroom without discussion. William and Amanda took one of the second-floor rooms, the children another, and Amanda's parents, who joined us for just a weekend, stayed in the remaining room. The dynamics were completely different, with consideration and respect guiding all interactions. One evening, as I sat on the deck watching the sunset with Noah and Lily playing nearby, William joined me with 2 glasses of scotch. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, handing me one of the glasses. "I was just thinking about how pain can be transformative," I replied. "A year ago, I felt like I was losing my place in this family, being pushed to the margins of your lives. Now, I feel more connected than ever." William nodded thoughtfully. "The irony is that by pulling away, by refusing to accept disrespect, you actually brought us closer together. It forced me to examine what kind of husband, father, and son I wanted to be. Sometimes we need to lose something to understand its true value," I observed, watching the last rays of sun sink below the horizon. I was willing to risk our relationship to save it, which was terrifying but necessary. "I am just grateful you did not give up on us," William said. "You gave me the chance to become the man you raised me to be, the man Mom would have been proud of." The mention of Sarah brought a familiar ache, but it was accompanied now by peace rather than just sorrow. "She would be proud of the father you have become," I assured him. "The way you are raising Noah and Lily, to be kind, respectful, and brave." We sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell, the sound of waves providing a soothing backdrop to our thoughts. In that moment, I felt profound gratitude for the painful awakening at the beach house a year earlier. By refusing to accept disrespect, by establishing clear boundaries even with those I loved most, I had not only reclaimed my dignity, but had helped my son reclaim his authentic self. The journey had been difficult, filled with uncomfortable conversations and painful realizations. There had been moments when I feared I might permanently damage my relationship with William or lose access to my grandchildren. But in standing firm, in demanding the respect I deserved, I had ultimately strengthened our family bonds rather than weakening them. In the house by the beach, I had not only regained respect, but discovered that clear boundaries are the foundation of a healthy family. Sometimes, you have to lose something for those around you to recognize its true value and yours. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted? How did you handle it, and did it change your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth. And remember, respect is never too much to ask for, especially from those who claim to love you. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care of yourself and those who truly value you.